In 1919, in the quiet town of Elaine, Arkansas, a call for black sharecroppers' rights led to one of the deadliest racial conflicts in U.S. history. Just one brutal chapter in a summer marred by bloodshed and terror across the nation. This period was called the Red Summer. Welcome to Our History Now. Let's get started.
Welcome back. Today we're diving into the Red Summer of 1919.
A period of intense racial violence. It's a part of American history that's both crucial and deeply disturbing.
And we're going to unpack what made 1919 such a volatile year. We'll also look into specific events.
With the Elaine massacre.
Right. And discuss how this period, how it continues to shape our world today.
It's a period many have forgotten, but it's one whose impact is still felt. It's a wave of racial violence that's fueled by a lot of things: historical baggage, anxieties, economic volatility, you name it.
Like a pot simmering, about to boil over. What were those factors that made 1919 so volatile?
Yeah, to understand, we need to go back further to after the Civil War, the period of Reconstruction.
Right.
We saw progress for African Americans, things like voting rights and holding office.
But it was short-lived.
Yeah, exactly. By the late 1800s, we see Jim Crow laws really taking root, fueled by, the Supreme Court's decision in Plessy v. Ferguson.
Separate but equal. That set the stage for decades of segregation.
Exactly. It legitimized the systemic separation of Black Americans from white society. We see it in every aspect of life: schools, transportation, housing.
Separate.
And rarely equal. And on top of that, you have this constant threat of lynching and mob violence.
Rarely punished.
Right. Instilling terror and deep resentment.
So you have this legal and social oppression. What specifically ignited the Red Summer of 1919?
Well, picture this. The Great Migration is in full swing.
The millions of African Americans fleeing the South.
Yeah, seeking better lives up north. Arriving in cities already dealing with post-war anxieties.
Soldiers returning from World War I, jobs are scarce, inflation is high.
Yeah.
Competition for everything.
Yeah. And in this climate of fear, uncertainty, Black workers and immigrants become scapegoats.
Right.
Coupled with the resurgence of white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan.
Who actively promoted violence and segregation.
Exactly. And it all created this really dangerous situation.
And the tragedy of it all. Imagine being an African-American soldier, returning home after fighting for democracy, only to be met with this.
Yeah, the irony is pretty devastating. Risking their lives for their country and then facing intense discrimination and violence when they come back.
Service and sacrifice juxtaposed against this complete lack of respect.
Inequality.
And then, summer 1919. Everything explodes. Violence in cities all across the country. It becomes known as the Red Summer. Riots in Chicago, Washington, D.C., Omaha, Elaine, Arkansas. Each one a mark of this racial violence.
Tragically, each one fueled the next as news spread and fear grew. Like the Chicago race riot, for example.
What happened there?
Well, it started with the young Black teenager, Eugene Williams. He drowned after crossing an invisible segregation line at a beach.
An invisible line in the water.
It's hard to believe how arbitrary those divisions were, and the reaction was anything but arbitrary. It triggered days of rioting. 38 people died, hundreds injured. Just one example of the widespread violence during that summer.
And within all this unrest, one event really stands out. The Elaine massacre.
Yeah, the Elaine massacre in Phillips County, Arkansas. It's a really chilling example of how quickly racial tensions could boil over.
I understand it began with Black sharecroppers. They were trying to get better working conditions.
Right. They wanted to improve their situation. They were part of the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America.
Their goal was to get fair compensation for their cotton.
Exactly. They held a meeting, a church in Hoopspur near Elaine. But, this was the Red Summer. Even the smallest act by Black people to stand up for themselves, it was met with force.
What happened at this meeting that triggered everything?
Well, the details are murky, but there was a shooting at the church.
Okay.
Now, whether it was self-defense by the sharecroppers or an act of aggression, we still don't really know. But the outcome was awful. The shooting basically gave white mobs the excuse they needed to unleash this horrific violence against the Black community. And it wasn't just mobs. Federal troops, local terrorist groups, they all played a part.
The government involved in this violence.
It shows how deeply ingrained racial prejudice was, even in the people in power.
Yeah.
And the aftermath of the massacre. Horrific.
A painful reminder.
Yeah.
Of the deep racial injustice, that plagued America.
Yeah. It's important, though, to see that this wasn't just about the violence itself. I mean, as horrific as it was,
Right.
there were these deeper problems, these systemic issues that made this widespread violence possible. I mean, the Red Summer, it really exposed just how deeply embedded these tensions were, these injustices woven into the fabric of American society.
So in the larger context, what does the Red Summer tell us about America at that time?
Well, it highlights how fragile racial progress was, really. Reconstruction, while well-intentioned, it just didn't dismantle the systems of white supremacy.
And the overturning of Plessy.
Plessy v. Ferguson was still decades away.
Right. Decades away. So you have this legal framework for segregation. It's a foundation for the discrimination and violence that African Americans were facing. It's a reminder that just having laws for equality doesn't mean there's social or economic equality.
Exactly. The Red Summer also shows us the role of economic anxiety.
Competition.
Yeah, in making racial tensions worse. The post-war period, it was a time of uncertainty.
And in those times, people look for someone to blame.
Right. And history's shown us time and again that marginalized groups become the targets. Economic hardship plus social anxiety plus racial prejudice. It's a volatile mix.
And it all exploded in the summer of 19. It's interesting how the Red Summer forced America to confront, its own hypocrisy.
Yeah, absolutely. You have Black soldiers fighting for democracy overseas, but at home, they're denied basic rights, denied dignity.
The Red Summer shattered this idea that America was a land of opportunity for everyone.
It did.
It exposed the gap between the ideals of American democracy and what Black Americans were actually experiencing.
Right.
And it makes you think, what was the lasting impact? A century later, we're still dealing with the consequences.
Yeah. History is full of these turning points, moments that reveal the cracks in society and force change. And as we reflect on the Red Summer, there are some key takeaways for us. First, progress isn't always a straight line. There will be setbacks, times where it feels like we're moving backward.
Like the backlash after Reconstruction that led to the Jim Crow era.
Exactly. But those setbacks, they don't erase the progress that has been made. They challenge us to fight harder, to be more vigilant in our pursuit of justice. And the Red Summer shows us how important it is to understand history, to learn from those past mistakes.
Because if we don't know where we've been, are we doomed to repeat them? It shows us the dangers of unchecked prejudice, economic inequality, and the abuse of power.
Exactly. And it reminds us that silence is complicity. We all have a responsibility to speak out against injustice, even when it's uncomfortable.
It's easy to look back at events like this and feel a sense of moral superiority,
Yeah.
But we have to ask ourselves, how are we contributing to the fight for justice today?
You're right. Are we challenging our own biases? Are we working to create a more equitable society? These are the questions we should all be asking ourselves. The Red Summer, it was a tragedy, no question, a stain on American history. But it also planted these seeds of resistance, and those would grow in the decades that followed.
Yeah. Till next time.
Thanks for listening. New episodes will be posted regularly. Please like and subscribe to be notified when new episodes are available. Once again, thank you.